Right. Well, the gross anatomy of a long bone and the microanatomy of a long bone. Compact versus spongy. So I did another video on the difference between those types of bones. What we want to do now is go into the microanatomy and the gross anatomy of these typical bones and what you're expected to be able to do if you're one of my students on one of my quizzes. So here we go. Brought to you by Curious Brainland. Now one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to point this out first. So if you're not one of my students, this doesn't relate to you. If you want to watch the video just for your better understanding, feel free to keep watching. This is a handout that I'm emailing to them, and it has a list of words that they need to be able to understand to describe and locate these terms in a long bone. All right, so this is a typical picture that they have to identify. I'm going to pretty much walk through a lot of this, and this is a handout I'm actually emailing to them. So I'm going to go ahead and get this set up, and then we'll come back. So let me just set that up real quickly, and then we'll go through the rest of the video. All right, now what I want to do, if you notice this little writing device, what I'm going to do is, as I mention these, I'll kind of highlight or I'll cross them out as we go through this. These are other questions that one of my students ought to be able to answer. So let's do this, and here we go. Now, in my other videos, I'm going to talk about these, but let's go ahead and really focus on the gross anatomy of the long bone and the microanatomy of a compact bone, and there's certain terms that we need to know. Quick reminder, we have the spongy or the compact. So these are two pictures of a spongy, a cancellous bone, and one of the things we're going to do is we're going to zoom in and try and find this structure right here. So I want to turn my right tool on. Right, and we'll just keep going down here. Here's just more zooming in. Here's your cancellous bone. Here's your compact. That's right here. So all throughout here is that matrix, that calcium phosphate makes the bone, but then within here are cells that we can see, and we'll see that both in the densely compact one and the cancellous. So let's kind of walk through here. There's a compact bone. So back to this. Let's focus in on these two right here. So there's your long bone, typical long bone, and within this you have spongy bone, you got your spongy bone, that's right, and then you have right here the compact bone. There's a lot of blood vessels. This open cavity has a name. It's called the medullary cavity. You've got a end that's going to articulate right here. That's where you have this articular cartilage, and we're going to label that in a second. You have you're going to have a proximal end, and you're going to have a distal end. So let's just show the label. Now, if you're one of my students, feel free to pause the video. This just goes right with the PowerPoint that's also on Blackboard. And so there's some of your terms. The epiphysis is the ends. Then you have the diaphanous, which has a hollow cavity, and this is where the marrow is. And this actually has another name called the medullary cavity. And I'll show that later on. Interesting note right here. This is your growth plate right here. That's this, the epiphyseal line, the growth plate. And this is made up of spongy, cancellous bone, and compact bone. And this all has an outer wrapping. So let's talk about this. Well, these are the same as these. And we'll talk about this, and then we're going to move on down the line. So I'll get myself out of the way. This is just a reminder of the two types of bone. You have your outer covering and your inner covering. This lines that marrow cavity. All right, I'm going to pause for a second. All right, we're back. Now, just for this part, the text, I would pause the video if you need to copy these down as notes. I just want you to see the text, and then we'll bring in the picture and kind of combine everything. So again, the diaphanous, diaphanous or the epiphysis. This has the marrow cavity, and it's in the center. It's what bone marrow is. There's two types, red and yellow marrow, and we'll see where they're located as we go through this video. All right, this talked about the articular cartilage. Remember, that's hyaline cartilage. So what I have here, there's the structure of the bone. Now, one of the things my students are going to have to do is I'll show this picture or a very similar picture, and I'll go over both of those while we're doing this video. So we're going to keep rolling through here. All right, there's a cross section that we're going to look at. This is actually the micro part, and it's kind of out of place in my PowerPoint, but imagine this is that densely packed bone, and there's cells right here. Here are some cells, and then this is the perosteum, that outer covering, which has a cellular layer on the inside right here, and then on the outside, that's a, I'll just write F for a fibrous layer, then C for cellular. All right, so we got to get a bunch of frame of references here. So let's go back to the main structure in a second, but these are some other terms that are on that right here. Like you'll see the Canaliculus. So I want to go through and check off what we've mentioned first. So we've kind of done this one. We've mentioned this one. Mentioned the perosteum and the endosteum. I pointed this out, but we'll get back into that a little bit later on. So let's see. We need to see this, the canals, the laminal. All right, so let's get back into here. All right, so just a quick reminder of the different types of cells. One of the questions I ask are which one of these three cells, is different than the other. The osteocyte and the osteoblast both pretty much do the same thing, except one is a mature cell, the cyte, and the blast is a newer cell. But these two are both kind of doing a similar function, which is producing new bone. They're the antagonist to the osteoclast, which is going to help digest bone and help with resorption, which is taking that bone that's in the blood, the calcium that's in the bone, and getting into the bloodstream. All right, and that's something for a whole other topic. All right, let's look at the labeling here. And what I want to do is I want to draw some arrows. Now, the next couple of slides, instead of wasting time writing it in, I'm going to phase it in and add some labels. So here we go. First, this is a humerus bone, but everything you're seeing here you can see with any long bone. Let's look at our cancellous bone. So the spongy. Okay, you got the trabecula, and cancellous is another label. I'm going to add some more labels, and I'm going to circle and label some stuff. This is what we'd do in classes. We'd label this. So all right, hyaline cartilage, that goes with this. We have the Sharpest Fibers, all right, and articular cartilage. I think I got a couple more labels, and then I'll add this in. All right, so first, all right, look at this. All right, we have our cancellous bone, cancellous. That goes with, that's another name saying spongy. Over here, we have the trabecula. All right, that's these cavities. See all this? This is a trabecula. All right, this is a trabecula. That means this space. Now, look at my marrow. See these empty pockets of matrix here? That is where the red marrow is. That's where red blood cells and white blood cells. That's where the hematopoiesis, where the production of red blood cells is going to occur. All right, let's see. What else do we want to label here? So we got the epiphysis, the diaphanous, okay? The marrow cavity that your textbook calls it, we're actually calling that the medullary cavity. So this cavity is filled with this yellow marrow. I'm going to change my ink color here. All right, just change. All right, the articular cartilage, that's this right here. All right, you see the articular cartilage here. And the articular cartilage, let's do this. That goes with this here. All right, that is hyaline cartilage. So let's look. The perosteum and the endosteum. The perosteum is this layer here, and you'll notice it's touching this cancellous bone. So the endosteum is right here. If you look at my picture, here's the endosteum here, endosteum. Now, the perosteum is the outer covering. All right, and I'm drawing a little arrow here to this phrase right here. All right, and that's supposed to be an arrow. All right, it says continuous with means ligament or tendon. So this perosteum runs and it connects to the tendon that's going to connect this bone to muscle, or the ligament that's going to connect bone to bone. All right, a couple other terms here. See these nutrient arteries here? That's fine here. Nutrient arteries, I'm going to put this in parentheses. This goes with this. This is kind of like the function. These arteries are going to carry O2 and nutrients to this area. All right. Again, this is artery, so it's going to the organ. Veins will be coming away. That's a whole other story. Perforating fibers. If you take the perosteum and peel it back, you'll see all these little lines. Those are called perforating fibers. They're also called Sharpest fibers. Okay. I think I've kind of labeled everything I wanted in here. Now let's zoom in a little more, and I want to kind of check my time here. All right, we have time to add in a couple more things. All right, let's go to here and see what we talked about this. The Sharpest fibers, that comes off the perosteum. I got to mention this. And I also need to talk about the osteon, this, and this next. Okay, talked about trabecula. All right, and this kind of all this goes in. So now what we have to do is we've got to zoom in. All right, let's zoom in to back to the PowerPoint if I could find it. All right, so let's do this. Jump down one more. All right, so I got to mention a couple of those terms. So back to the PowerPoint, and so there's a structure called an osteon. If you take this well, it is connective tissue, it's bone. So right here, that's referred to. Each one of those is osteons. Inside, you have these rings, and rings, and then this is all compact bone. Then you have the endosteum where you see the cancellous bone, and then again, what makes makes sense that you got red marrow is filling in all these cavities, and then you got the big tube here, which would be your yellow marrow, which is basically a fat deposit. That's what the yellow marrow is, fat deposit. So let's get this whole structure. If you pull it out, it's called an osteon from here to here. So you have a central blood canal, and that's called the Humerus Canal. And I think it's probably best if I jump down and show you a couple more terms. All right, you're going to see this and this here, lacuna. Now, we already talked about the 3 types of cells. What happens is there's a little pocket in this bone where the cell rests, and that's called a lacuna. It stands for a little lake. Inside, it could be an osteocyte, an osteoclast, or an osteoblast. We really can't tell. We can identify the site. So, again, each one of these darkened circles, those are the cells. And it turns out there's tubes going this way, and the Canaliculus are actually going to be a little like a connection line between those lines, So so this little ring, all right, is called a laminelle, and then you have another concentric ring. So laminelle, from one point to another endpoint is called an osteon. Okay, inside this is called the central canal. That's a blood vessel. So let's look at this here. So here, these are laminae, all right, and in the center of each one is this tube that is called the central canal, and that's why it's also called the Humerus system. Okay, so you got blood vessels coming in here, and then imagine each one of these little dots, those are the osteocytes, and you can see the Canaliculus a little better here. So here's an osteocyte, and here's an osteocyte. I probably should change the color. Let's do this. So there's an osteocyte, and this is an osteocyte. But then this little connection, keep changing the color here, those lines that connect. So this is an interaction between these two cells, and that's made possible by the Canaliculus. Right? So lacuna would be this outer, the little hole in the matrix, that calcium phosphate that makes the matrix, the hard matrix that makes up bone. Inside that would be the cell, and then what connects them is the Canaliculus, and that's pretty much a lot of what we see in dense, compact bone. Now, you see the outer perforating fibers here. These are also called the Sharpest Fibers. So if you pull this perosteum off, these little connective fibers, they're called the Sharpest Fibers. There's blood vessels, there's the perosteum, and one other term that we should talk about is this. All right, let's go back to our terms. So I think I've mentioned everything here. I want to say the Volkmann's is also this. That's Volkmann's cavities, canals. All right, lacuna is the little cavity. This is this Humerus holds the central canal. So the last thing is, you'll notice, so here's a central canal, but see this connection point? The perforating fibers, or the perforating canals, don't confuse fibers with canals. Fibers attach the perosteum. The canal is a link between this blood vessel and this blood vessel. So this is why nutrients coming in can go, if you just follow this, they can go all the way through. It doesn't have to go just up this central canal. It can travel and travel and travel and travel all the way through this bone tissue, even getting into the spongy, which you see over here, the cancellous. All right, I think that's pretty much it. These are just some microscopic views. This whole structure from across is an osteon. There's a central canal. So this whole structure, this is your central canal. All right, I'm trying to write CC, and then this from here to here, that would be a laminelle. That's a cell. I'm saying cell. It could be osteon. All right, little connection fibers here, and connection fibers here would be Canaliculus, and the whole thing again is called an osteon. All right, and this is just another zoom in. So, all right, that's pretty much it. It's kind of a long video, but what we wanted you to see is some basic terminology. And back to this, these are certain things that my students need to be prepared for, or for themselves, for their quiz, and I would definitely recommend that they go through and answer these questions and practice labeling these. And this is a handout that they get a digital copy, and they can also pick up a paper copy from me in class. All right, brought to you by Curious Marineland.